Good morning friends, my name is Professor Vijay Tarodikar. Today we will discuss a very important topic regarding the classification of the gear. Basically the gears are classified based on the two criteria. The first one is position of the shaft and the second one is the nature of the shaft. Now based on these two criteria you will have a different types of gears just like which is visible on your screen: a spur gear, helical gear, bevel gear, worm gear, and the last one is the rack and pinion gear. Now let us see one by one. The first gear is called as the spur gear. Now we will discuss about the classification of the gear based on the position of the shaft. Now the figure which is visible on your screen, it has a two shaft and the both shafts are parallel to each other. If the shaft of the driven and the driver gears are parallel to each other, then the teeth which is visible on such shaft or such gear which are also parallel to the axis of the shaft, then such gear is called as the spur gear. Means the tooth profile which is parallel to the axis of the rotation transmit the motion between the two parallel shafts. Such teeth are called as the spur gear teeth. In the same way, the teeth may be externally meshed or the teeth may be internally meshed. On both the figures, see that the teeth which is on the curvature of the gears are parallel to the axis of the shaft. Now let us see the second gear, that is called the helical gear. Now in the third figure it is clearly that both axes are parallel to each other, but the orientation of the teeth. Now in the first and the second figure the orientation of teeth are parallel to the axis of the shaft, but in the third figure the teeth are inclined to the axis of the shaft. If the teeth is inclined to the axis of the shaft, then the such gear teeth is called as the helical gear teeth. Now in the same way, this is the figure we called as the bevel gear. Now why we called as this is the bevel gear? In this figure it is clearly seen that the axis of input gear, that is called as the pinion gear, and the axis of output gear, that is called as the simply gear, are intersecting. If they are intersecting to each other, it means that they may have a 90-degree angle or they may have less or greater than the 90-degree angle, and such classification of the gear is called as the bevel gear. Now from the figure it is clear that the teeth are straight enough. Now the bottom figure, the teeth are not straight enough, they are in curvature. So the straight teeth is called as the straight bevel gear and the spiral teeth is called as spiral bevel gear. Now in both cases the orientation of the axis of the shaft are not parallel to each other, they are intersecting. Means they are perpendicular to each other, maybe less than 90 degree to each other or maybe greater than 90 degree to each other. Now in the third classification you will see the shaft orientation, the axis of the shaft orientation, they are neither parallel to each other, they are not intersecting to each other. Means if the axis of the shaft are neither parallel to each other nor intersecting to each other, then such gears are called as worm gear. The pinion is replaced by a worm and the gear remains same. Now the figure it is clear that the axis of the worm and the axis of the helical gear are neither parallel to each other or neither intersecting to each other. Now in the second figure, see that the axis of the pinion gear and the axis of the rack gear again are neither parallel to each other nor intersecting to each other. But in the previous figure, if you compare with the worm gear is a circular in nature while the rack is not a circular in nature. Means from the both figure it is concluded that the axis of the pinion and the axis of the gears are neither parallel to each other nor intersecting to each other. That's why the example of such gears are called as the worm gear set or the rack and pinion gear set. Thank you.